Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life by Veena World. We are your hosts, Neil and Sunila. Sunila, how are you today?
Hi Neil. Hi everybody. Today is a great day. I think it's raining and really I wish I was outdoors and not indoors, but it's good to be talking here. So, as always.
Awesome. We've been speaking about so many things over the last few episodes. Today, we go to something that I really like. We talk about cruises. There are different types of cruises. There are ocean cruises, there are river cruises, there are day cruises, there are dinner cruises that you can go on a date on all across the world. But Sunila, I think a good point to start with would be a nice story that you told me some time ago, a couple of years ago, when you were cruising in Egypt. So tell me a little about that.
Yes, Neil. I think ocean cruises is something that everyone's really familiar with, and we don't think twice because ocean cruising is really popular, marketed quite a bit across the world as well. Something that doesn't really get its due, I think, is river cruising, and that is why I like to talk about the Nile. Because in Egypt, cruising on the Nile, I mean, historically also the Nile is so important. It's so much of livelihood to entire Africa, and everywhere you go, when you read history right from Cleopatra's time, it's something that I had always looked forward to. And I was really happy to be out there because it was like a 3 night 4 day cruise, so it wasn't too long. We started in Luxor, and we went up, Komombo and all the way to Aswan, and it kind of reverses the route as well. So from Aswan, the best part is you can get off the cruise, go into your excursion, see the historic monuments, history live out there, come back on the cruise, and there's entertainment waiting for you. So it was really quite nice, and we did it when it was the New Year's. So it was an amazing thing to be able to experience a New Year's on board the cruise. So I really enjoyed that.
That's nice. I quite agree with that, where, the river cruising is a completely different aspect. And I once did the Halong Bay cruise in Vietnam. So, of course, we were at a place called Cat Ba Island. And from there, we did it was a 1 night cruise. But
Mm.
over there, you are with like younger people, and then you're just jumping into the waters
Yeah.
of Halong Bay, kayaking through that, and staying there. And one of the great things about that cruising experience was that, the captain and the crew of the ship also help you fish, like you
Wow.
fish and then you have that for dinner. So that was quite fun. But tell me, what is the difference according to you between river cruises and ocean cruises, or why should one go on a river cruise and why should one go on an ocean cruise?
Good point, Neil. And I think the best way to really explain this, and I will borrow a line from one of the river cruises which are really popular in Europe, the Ama waterways. And there, if you see the website, the line says that oceans take you to countries, but rivers take you through them. And I think the entire gist of ocean versus river cruising is in these two lines, because ocean cruises are really made for entertainment. They are made for onboard entertainment. So they are taking you from point A to point B, and you're basically using the ocean as a means to travel there. Once you reach a particular port or point, you disembark, you do an excursion, or maybe it's a beach, depending on where you are. So you could be in the Caribbean and have like entire day at the beach, swim in the water, zip line, like you said, kayak, sea kayaking, so many other things. Or probably you are in Alaska where you get off and you go and see some points of interest, you go visit the glaciers, you come back. Or you're in Asia where you're going and seeing a city as well and you're coming back. Whereas river cruising, yes, of course, you do disembark, but all the while that you're traveling, you're actually traveling within the country. You are not away from anywhere. So you could just sit there and see history pass by, see life pass by, see culture pass by all the time. So just think of it like when you're in Europe and you're either on the Danube or the Rhine, and you're going, and when you're on the Rhine, you see these castles in Germany, you see life, you see people. So you're always in touch with something, and I think that really is the charm of river cruising. So there are many reasons why one should choose a river cruise or why one should go on an ocean cruise, and we'll get to it. But I think the most important point is that with ocean cruises, you are really out on the sea. You'll probably not even look out or you would be happy to look out at the sea and see nothing but the ocean for miles and miles and miles. Whereas with river cruising, even when you're in your room and you have these huge French windows and you're looking out, you're always looking at life. So I think that's the biggest difference.
I think that's a good way to put it. Now, I remember you going with Sarah on one of the Royal Caribbean
Yeah.
cruises. So let me ask you this question, because many of our listeners may have this question. If we are a family with kids, should we go
Mhm.
for ocean cruises or river cruises?
I think for me personally, the answer is very clear. I would always choose an ocean cruise with little children over a river cruise. When I went with Sarah, she was just 4 years old. So obviously, she wanted, she was looking for activities, entertainment, adventure. And there is no dearth of that on ocean cruising. So, in fact, they have a daily program. So, every night they send you, like in your cabin, you will get a newsletter, or there are various points where you can see that. And there is a nice daily program starting from morning, that this would be going on here. They have a children's club. So, you make new friends, you're making new things. They have other entertainment when you're out on the deck or by the pool. They have some entertainers walking around, magicians. Or the best part was free ice cream all the time, so there was a soft serve there. And I remember her going back again and again and asking me, really, I don't have to pay for it again and again? Well, it was included in the tour price. But so ocean cruising gives you that big vast idea of a cruise that you want. With river cruising, it's a little more calmer. So, if you're looking for something that is activity based completely all the time, then ocean cruising is something which will have entertainment, activities. You can even do surfing on board an ocean cruise today. You can do zip lining, you can do slides, so many other things. River cruising, on the other hand, I would say, is for slightly older families. Of course, there are cruises with families too and made for the younger ones, but some of the river cruises are adults only cruises. So, you really can't take children out there. But I know of people who have actually privatized the whole thing, rented the entire river cruise, and then you can do whatever you want. But river cruising is more about, having a nice glass of wine, having a spa treatment. There would be lounge, there would be a nice lounge out there. So go have your drink in the evening, and in the day, a nice breakfast, fine dining. And then when you're sitting, you're actually also seeing the city go through. When the cruise, it stops by, you disembark, you go in, maybe take a cycle, see the countryside, or go explore the city, have your lunch, have walk around, come back. So if with families, I would always prefer an ocean cruise to a river cruise.
Okay, that's a good explanation about the difference between the two. And I have often heard people say that ocean liners, like
Mhm.
you have the oasis of the seas, the harmony of the
Yeah,
seas, and so many of them. They are basically cities moving on water,
true.
right? And over a 5 day period or the 7 day period, where like the duration of the cruise,
Mm.
it also could be that sometimes you may not be able to do everything that the cruise has to offer. Did you feel like that when you were on the Royal Caribbean cruise?
Completely, Neil. Because in fact, so my perspective changed completely. Before I went on cruise, I was thinking there are 2 days where we are at high seas, which is a day where you don't disembark, you don't do anything. And I said, 2 full days in a 7 day itinerary, 7 or 8 day itinerary. What are we going to do on those 2 days just in the ocean? And I think this is a hesitation that a lot of people have, that, I'm going to be lost at sea. What will I do there? But, honestly, believe me, like you said, because it's a city, you have to book in your treatments or something if you're interested in, or it's limited, right? So you have to book in your spots earlier. And there was just so much to do that you can't do everything. So the first day you're a little lost trying to just figure out your way and trying to figure out what is where. By the second day, so typically on a 8 day itinerary in an ocean cruiser, you'll have the second or the third day where you'll be at high sea. So on the first day itself, or even before you embark on the cruise, identify the things that you like to do. As soon as you get on the cruise, book them, and you will then really enjoy them. And I learned this, and I always tell whoever goes that try and book it off. And there were beautiful shows. There was I remember we had like a magic show going on. And then some of them are really internationally famous as well, so you get the advantage of seeing some performance there. There was dance, there was music, so you had to really like plan an itinerary for your leisure time, that okay, this morning I go for my spa treatments, then I come back, and then I do this. So yeah, you definitely feel like that, but it can be a little overwhelming initially, but later on you can really enjoy. You can make the, I think it's the best value for money.
Awesome, awesome. So I think we've spoken about ocean cruises, but let's talk about river cruises because
Mhm.
today's topic is river cruises, right? And
Yeah.
river cruising
Yeah.
across the world.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. You, of course, one thing we have established is that ocean cruises have a large number of people, and then
Mm.
river cruises have a smaller subset of people. So in this day and age, in 2021, today that I'm out here, like what makes you think that people will want to go for river cruises, or what are some of the advantages that like you think, like why I should go spend my winter in India or abroad river cruising?
Neil, that's a really good point you're making there. Like an ocean cruise, typically, I think the smallest of the ocean cruises will also take something like 700 to 800 people, which is the maximum number that you can reach on a river cruise, depending on the size of the cruise. So, ocean cruises, the bigger ones can take up to 5,000 to 6,000 people in one go. So, for those who don't like to wait in queues, who do not like to have too many people around them, and I think today all of us are looking for that. That we want to be, not in a crowded environment. You want to have lesser people around you. I think river cruising, sorry, is an amazing way to do that, because just 80 to 200 or 300 people at the most is what you see, not even 700. um, and in that small environment everything is faster, because the number of the team or the staff, the river cruising staff that is waiting on you, the ratio of that per guest is definitely much more than in a ocean cruising. So the service is amazing. And yeah, you have your, see, if you don't want to socialize and you just want to be in your room, you don't feel stuck, because here I'd like to talk about the a cabin in a river cruise versus your room in an ocean cruising. So ocean cruising, typically you have a lot of options. So you have one with room with a balcony, or you can have without a balcony, just a porthole which is just like a window. And there are inside staterooms which have no windows also, which can get a little claustrophobic, and you can't really do anything in the room on an ocean cruise. But on the river cruise, when you're in your cabin itself, you are still sightseeing, because you're still right in the center of a city, or you're passing through a country. So even if you decide that I don't feel like going out, I just want to be in my room and enjoy the view, you still are doing something, and you still have things to look at and things to see. So I think, given this day and age, river cruising would be a great way. Also, the option of doing a shorter cruise, there are more cruises that are shorter in river cruising as compared to ocean cruises. Yes, there are 4, 5, 6 nighters or 7 nighters in ocean cruising as well. But with a river cruise, you could choose to just go for half a day. You can choose to go for one day, 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights. So it's a quick tour as well. So I think it's a great time to go river cruising.
Yeah, I quite agree because when we were doing some river cruising in Australia,
Mhm.
and like in Melbourne, you can do river cruising just for the day. And then that's more like, you have your drinks, you have your lunch
Yeah,
and dinner
yeah,
organized. And it's the Yarra River in Melbourne, right? So
yeah,
you can have that thing where you and your loved one could just book out a small cruise where you and like maybe 10
yeah.
or 15 couples are there, and you are just enjoying that. I've done that in Lao also, in Luang Prabang, where it's just a sunset cruise, but
Mm,
like through the day you go down the river, you do some excursions, come back,
yeah.
have lunch, and then towards the end of the day there is nice champagne, there's wine and everything, and there's like a proper high tea setup, and then you enjoy the sunset before you disembark the cruise. But let's start by naming a few. Which ones like come to your mind when we talk about river cruises?
So, Neil, if we look at river cruises in Europe, there is Ama Riverways for sure. If we look at India, then there are, you would be looking at, of course, Kerala takes, we all know that, and we've spoken about that. So, there are houseboats in Kerala that we can always take up. The best part, I think, in India would be, just imagine going on the Ganges. So you have the Sundarban river cruising. Plus, you mentioned a small cruise like a lunch or a dinner cruise. So you also have the option of a Hilsa cruise where you go in and you have a Hilsa lunch. So you taste the famous Hilsa fish out there and just go out for 3 4 hours, have the nice lunch and come back. So that's also something that you can do there. If I talk of companies in India, there's Vivada Cruises, there's Antara Cruises, and of course there are others as well. In Kerala, there is Kerala Houseboats that do that. So these are some of the ones that are really popular in India. If we talk of Europe, there's Avalon, Viking. I already spoke of Amma, which are really good. In Egypt, in fact, on the Nile, you can even take an Oberoi cruise. So, that's kind of really popular to do that. You mentioned about Vietnam and Cambodia already. Aqua Expeditions are some others. And then, of course, South America has also their share of cruises. And I remember one of the most popular things to do here is to go on the Amazon. So in Manaus, you can actually be out there on the Amazon, or in Argentina, you can go visit the Tigre Delta. And I've done that, and I really, really like that. Coming back to a shorter cruise, two cruises that always please is one, of course, on in Paris on the River Seine. And you can everybody really enjoys that because it's nice to sit inside and go. And the other place is London. It's a city that all of us really love, and it is the city also where it can rain at any time. So I found that being in a cruise was amazing. Plus, if you really take the ones later in the night, then you see illuminated London, and that's just stunning. So you have live music, a live band playing, really good fine dining food. So in fact, a lot of proposals happen on these cruises, and we've seen that. Luckily the girl said yes, so everything was well. But yeah, it was quite stunning to be on the cruise on Thames as well.
Indeed, yeah, proposals happen on cruises. I had forgotten about that entirely. But
Mhm.
I'll circle back to one thing you said.
Mhm.
If you don't like standing in lines, go
Mhm.
for river cruising. And I totally agree, because on an ocean liner, it's like a water park, it's like an amusement park. You will be queuing up for a lot of things. You'll be queuing up to get into the restaurant, you'll be queuing up to get onto that water slide, you'll
Yeah.
be queuing up to get onto that roller coaster. Like, there are roller coasters on a
Mhm.
few ocean cruises. But one cruise that both of us have in common and that we've taken is not a river cruise, but is actually an adventure cruise going to Antarctica. And we took it 2 different years. But
Yes.
that is something that was incredible. And that has stuck with me for a long, long, long time. Now, another thing, I'm coming to the budget, Sunila. Is river cruising an expensive affair always, or there are different categories for different types of travelers?
There are, of course, a few different categories, but given that the cabins itself are smaller on river cruising, number of categories compared to ocean cruising would, of course, be fewer. Having said that, river cruising actually works out quite, I would say it is really value for money, and it's not so hard on the pocket if you consider that you're having amazing food, you're having, the cost of it's not just transportation you're paying for, you're actually paying for a hotel that is moving in that sense. So it's your price of your accommodation, transportation, meals, everything put in together. So it's almost like a full amount, like a total, amount that you're paying, and everything's taken care of. In India, I would say it does start from something like 8 to 10,000 per night. You have an option of luxury cruising which goes up to 20 to 25,000 a night as well. And even internationally, I would say a good cruise is somewhere around the same deal, like 20,000 a night is something that you can think of. But put together your hotel stay, your transport, your meals, breakfast, lunches, dinners, plus high teas and whatnot, entertainment and everything put in together, it really is a great value for money there as well. So I don't think it's really that expensive. And with cruising, there is something that everyone should keep in mind is you can save a lot of money if you book early. So if you're booking now, and especially this year where people are just starting to travel again, there are a lot of deals available out there. But the earlier you book, the more you save. It's just as simple as that. So they have a lot of early bird offers. If you book 5 6 7 8 months in advance, people actually have booked 1 year in advance, because as soon as you book, you get your cabins. And some people are really particular, like even with the ocean cruising, today there are villas also inside the cruises. So if you want something that's very particular, definitely book early. And then you save a lot of money as well. So the same cruise can go up by $300-400. So you can save a lot.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to spend something like that, like, being late and then spending more for that cruise. But another thing that I like about river cruises is that the ratio of the number of staff members on the
Yeah,
cruise to the guests. There are certain luxury cruises where there are 80 staff members for a
yeah,
capacity of 40 guests. And what that does is that you get that personal attention that you may not get elsewhere. And that is what most people who we have had go with Veena World on these river cruises have come back saying that, this is what like we really like, that
sets
we
it
had
apart.
that
Yeah.
personal attention. And the other thing is that when you're on a river cruise, and if you're on a multi-day river cruise, there will always be someone who will be telling you about the culture of the place. There will be different activities that will be happening. Like, imagine sailing on the Ganga and then having a river, like river cruise cooking class that is there on that cruise. So that is also something that is incredible. So there are different things that you can do when it comes to cruising. And then, I've often seen people having a bucket list ki, "Arey, cruise karna hai ek bar."
Mm.
But I think for all listeners, you should not have the bucket list item as just ticking off a cruise. There should be an ocean cruise, there should be a river cruise, there should be a
An
dinner date
expedition. Yeah,
river cruise, there has to be
yeah,
an expedition cruise.
yeah.
And we've been to Antarctica, but now we are saving money. So, we can go to the North Pole. And the North
Yeah.
Pole, how it's different from Antarctica is that Antarctica is mountains and icebergs, but the North Pole is just a sheet of ice. And you need specialized ships to go there. So there are like these nuclear icebreakers that take you to the North Pole. So if anyone has like a few lakhs sitting in your bank account and you feel like doing
Mm.
something that no one has ever done, think about the Arctic expedition to the North Pole that the luxury holidays team at Veena World certainly does. And you should definitely have that on your bucket list. As we reach the end of the episode, Sunila, what would you like to mention? What, any closing points or something like that?
Neil, I think you made a really good point right now, and I'd just like to continue that there are with cruising in general, and of course with river cruising as well, and with ocean cruising, there are certain activities that you can do only with cruising. You cannot do this with if you travel by land, and in fact there are certain areas or places that you have to visit by a cruise. So you brought up Antarctica, and it kind of reminded me that there is there is a point where they take you and they park the cruise, and then you have an option to jump into the icy cold waters, right? So that jump was something so memorable. I remember standing there in the middle of the ocean and just jumping off, and you're shivering, but you feel so exhilarated, you feel so amazing. So that's something you have to go on a cruise to do. And then, the whole point where even with river cruising and ocean cruising, they take you close to the shore, but sometimes the cruises are also quite big. So then you get into a smaller raft or a zodiac, as they call it, or even with the Ganga, you get into a smaller boat, and then you go really close to the shore, and you see the flora, fauna, animals. So one point here is the Sundarbans, where I mean, imagine seeing the Royal Bengal tiger. In the river, what can be more exciting than that? Now, you can't do this by road. You have to get into the river. And that's again something I realized when I actually had a chance to go to Uganda. And that is, they say, is the origin of the Nile. But we did do a river cruise where we saw rhinos, elephants, and little birds and everything out there. So that's something I can't experience by road. So doing a river safari, in fact, that's something I forgot to mention, that you can actually do river safaris as well. But one thing on my bucket list surely is getting to the Ganges and doing a Sundarban Tiger Reserve by road, because you have the mangrove tours, you have visits to the local fish markets, like you said, cooking or yoga on the Ganges on the river in the morning, followed by sighting of a Royal Bengal tiger, relaxing in your cabin, and really watching life go by. So I think if chance we have the chance and we can do it, then river cruising this year would be an amazing idea.
That's awesome, because I think in one episode alone, we have given many of our listeners a lot of items to tick off their bucket list. So I think all of you listeners, you should really start adding more and more things. And if you think we missed out on any of the river cruises, or if you have done any river cruises that we haven't spoken of, please tell us in the comments, or write to us at neil@veenaworld.com or sunila@veenaworld.com, because we would love to hear from you as to what you think about river cruising. But with that, we come to the end of another episode of Travel, Explore, Celebrate Life. Thanks a lot, Sunila. You are basically a travel encyclopedia for all of us.
Thank
And
you so
now
much.
that you're on about what, 85 countries, hopefully 2021 and 2022 become the year that you hit 100, and I'm sure you will hit 100.
I look forward to that century.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Sunila. Thank you so much, listeners, for tuning in. And if you are still here with us, please listen to more and more episodes of our new podcasts that are there. There is 5 Minute Travel Tips with Neil Patil. There is a Hindi podcast that we have come up with called Chalo Bag Bharo Nikal Pado. And we have also come up with a Marathi podcast, which is called Travel Katta, where we talk with, like, we speak to our tour managers and listen to stories or travel stories from their view, because they have done so many countries, they have met so many people on Veena World tours, and they have just created so many memories along with our happy travelers. So thank you very much. Have a good day, everyone, and we will see you next week. Take care.